My name is Karen Spellman, and I began working full-time for SNCC in 1966. So I went to Atlanta very unceremoniously in September, knocked on the big metal door at the base of the SNCC building, which was a huge warehouse in downtown Atlanta. And there was this guy standing at the top of the stairs pushing a broom. So he said, "Come on up." He says, "What's your name?" I said, "Oh, I'm Karen Spellman. I think I know who you are." And he said, "Who am I?" I said, "You're Jim Forman." He said, "That's right." And he says, "And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to take this broom and I want you to sweep this corridor." And it wasn't dirty, but I said, "Sure, I'll sweep the corridor." This was Forman's way of introducing you to the world of SNCC. And being snicky meant that you left your ego, you checked your ego at the door. There wasn't a hierarchy. Everyone is expected to do their part. Everyone pitched in and did whatever was necessary to be done. You were level. As I worked in the Atlanta office over the next 2-3 years, within a predominantly female environment, women had so many different roles that they played, and we switched hats depending on what was needed. You could be expected to do anything from write an article, research an article, clip newspapers, participate in setting up a press conference, type up or write a press release, be a press spokesperson, to going downstairs in the SNCC print office to actually learn how to do a paper cutting on this humongous paper cutting machine that we had that looked like a big guillotine. SNCC had its own production facility. We were able to produce materials from our office, so we were able to get word out, everything from flyers to newsletters to press releases. But in addition to writing it, being snicky meant you had to cut the paper. you had to type up the article. You had someone look at it, but you did your own editing and you raised the money for it. So we did everything. So snicky meant wearing all hats at any time. That was the good part about it. There were some things about being snicky that weren't so good. We were constantly being harassed by the police department. I'll speak of my experience in Atlanta because that's where I spent most of my time. I can recall one evening, this was New Year's Eve in 1966, when we had decided we were going to have a night out, and we had bought tickets to go see Chuck Jackson perform at the Royal Peacock. That was going to be our New Year's Eve treat, and Chuck Jackson didn't show up at the concert, and it was a very big concert, and people were piling out of the venue. So as we were walking down the street to go to the car, we stood out like a sore thumb because we all had our afros. During those days, afros weren't that popular or prominent. They became much more prominent as time went on, but one of the ways you can tell a SNCC woman being snicky was that she wore her hair natural. And the police would cruise around looking for people with natural hair. And they saw the group of us, and they started saying, "What are you doing on the street?" And we said, "We're not doing anything, we're coming from the concert." And they said, "You're under arrest." So they jumped out of the police. These were black policemen. So, as far as I can tell, there wasn't any difference between harassment by white or black police in Atlanta during this time. And they proceeded to arrest us. They grabbed us by the arm. They put us in the paddy wagon. They even hit Charlie over the head and caused his head to bleed. And so we were in separate paddy wagons, the women and the men. And when we saw Charlie, he had his one good shirt had blood all over it. So we were arrested that night. We were charged with inciting to riot. We were charged with insurrection. And the possible penalties that we faced, the sentencing could have put us in jail for 30 years. So were it not for the amazing skill of Howard Moore Jr., who was our attorney in Atlanta, who came to our rescue and got us out of jail. And but meanwhile, this was an amazingly frightening time for us because we didn't know whether or not we were going to be spending the next 30 years in jail.